Happy 2019, Starbytes. Man, it's amazing how fast 2018 went by. I mean, just 1 year ago, we had idiots trying to eat Tide Pods. Wonder what they'll try to kill themselves with this year. My votes are on sporks. But with the new year comes a new resolve and a new schedule for countdowns. Let's see how well I can keep it up. But what I do want to focus on is what new games will be coming in the future. If I've done this right, Kingdom Hearts 3 should be just around the corner, and later this summer we'll be getting the CTR reboot, which I am fucking hyped for. But kind of like how Smash Bros was a huge surprise last year, there can be an untold amount of great games in the work that we have no clue about. Ones that might come this year or in the untold future. And while I have very little idea of how hard making a game is, I'm just an idea person, and throwing ideas into the wind of at least what I want to see happen won't do any harm. Simply put, this is just a list of things that have been boiling in my mind brine for a while and just thought it might be fun to share with crossed fingers that someone might listen. I have a lot of dreams. Please don't break all of them. It's kind of funny how things work. When I originally started working on this list, it was September. The Undertale Switchboard had just come out and thoughts of an Undertale sequel were starting to spread online. And before, I never really cared, but then I started liking the idea more and more. But that was going to be the original number 10, but then we got Deltarune in, and I'm totally satisfied with it. Excited to see what comes next in Chapter 2. And that also means I can just roll into how badly we need a new F-Zero game. Seriously, the last time anything F-Zero came out, it was 2004, and even then, F-Zero Climax was only released in Japan. Needless to say, fans of this series have been starved of any new content for almost a decade and a half. Not that I care too much, to be honest. I personally have never been a big fan. In fact, I've only ever played one F-Zero game, and it was a ROM at a friend's house, and I was like 8 years old when I played it. And even then, I only played it for like 5 minutes or so. But what I played was still fun. I think it was a long time ago. But the biggest problem is that F-Zero is still recognized as an important part of Nintendo's history, and yet Captain Falcon has gotten more attention in Smash Bros. Than in his own series. It couldn't hurt. If there was one game in 2018 that was truly exceptional, it was the Spider-Man game by Insomniac. I say that not playing one actual minute of it, but I can still tell how well made the game was. It had a great open world and none of I'm going to die! That. It's going to be a while before any superhero game can top this. I mean, people can try. Fun superhero video games are nothing I would oppose. And while Iron Man or another Deadpool game would sound awesome, I think we need a new Superman video game. Terrible idea? Well, kind of, considering one of the worst games ever made of all time is Superman 64. But that's exactly why we need a new one. Superman needs a chance at redemption. He spent the last 2 decades hiding in shame because some fucking idiots at Titus didn't know how to make a game right. After the success of the Arkham series and the new Spider-Man game, I'm sure somebody out there would want to give a crack at it. Just be sure to do it right this time. I imagine a somewhat open world where you can freely fly about, having access to your freeze breath, heat vision, super strength, and just whatever 60-man 64 forgot to do. And if it turns out not to be as good as we want it to be, that's just fine. The bar is set pretty low, wouldn't hurt to raise it a little bit. If there is one thing I love, it's indie games. If I had the knowledge and materials, I'd make my own. I already have the story ready for it and everything. I just think it's amazing how small groups of people can make such masterpieces of gaming. Stardew Valley, Super Meat Boy, and I didn't spend all of last September talking about Undertale for nothing. But while I think Undertale is the best of the indies, it's not my favorite. That title goes to a hat in time. Good God, do I love this game. This is one of the single most greatest games I've ever had the pleasure of playing. Lovable characters, smooth controls, a kick-ass soundtrack. And more charm than all of the titles that came out in 2017. Though, if I had one gripe, the game was a little short. Thankfully, the mod community and Seal the Deal have helped out in extending the game's playability, but that can only last so long. And I think you can see where this is going. Is it rude to ask for a sequel only a year after its release? It might be, considering the game took 5 years, but I feel confident in asking since I'm not alone on this one. Gears for Breakfast now has a countless number of new fans excited to see what comes next. Even YouTubers like The Completionist, Rabbid Luigi, and Dude have all said they'd love a sequel for this game. I have no clue what it would be about though. It would probably take place on a new planet since Hat Kid is trying to get home, and a mix of new hats from the first game along with some new ones. As long as the platforming stays the same and we get the charm of the first one, I have no problems. Let's talk a little bit more about indie games, because there's another reason why I like them so much. Since you don't have any true restrictions to what you can or can't make, besides copyright of course, you can end up with some pretty crazy ideas that work in the end. Most of the time we end up with weird platformer or action games, and that's fine. What I want to focus on are themes mostly, and while I've never been that big a fan of the fighting genre aside from Smash Bros obviously, I will ask one question. Why in the hell has no one come up with a YouTuber fighting game yet? Seriously, with how popular YouTube is, coming up with a game about YouTubers should be easy! Or maybe not. With how fast some people's styles can change, coming up with a constant theme for a game like this can be a little tricky. And that's what I thought for the longest time until I subscribed to Draw with Jazza and saw his YouTuber Cinematic Universe thing. And this just looks perfect. Despite it being called the Cinematic Universe, I could totally see this working as some kind of Mortal Kombat style game, with Rainbow Dawson fighting against Antisepticeye in Thomas Sanders' Mind Palace. There are lots of different possibilities to go with this. If anyone does want to go to work on this, I will gladly help out. Though I have yet to play it, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate looks amazing. So many refinements, and the attention to detail is amazing, and god damn it, I need a Switch. But the reason I bring this up now is because we need to let Sakurai take a break from Smash. Christ, at this rate, we're going to kill him. He needs to take a step away and take a very much needed vacation. Or at the very least, work on something else. Might not hurt to work on a new Kirby game. I might be wrong, but the last Kirby games that had his involvement were Kirby Air Ride and The Amazing Mirror. I say this because one thing both titles had in common was a bit of openness. Air Ride had the city trial that could be explored, and Amazing Mirror had a kind of Metroidvania world to travel across. Leading me to ask, can Kirby work with a full open world design? It might not hurt to try. Actually, it could hurt a lot of different franchises because not all games work with an open world. If you tried this with something like, I don't know, Tetris, I'm sure it would fall flat. But seeing as there is yet to be a truly bad Kirby game, there's a good chance it could turn out well. I don't know how you would design Popstar as an open world, but if you were to ask me, I thought it would be pretty cool if you take design concepts from Kirby right back at ya. It was a damn good show that still holds up pretty well, despite being on 4Kids. Adapt the episodes a bit, and a good game could come out of it. Just some food for thought. I am not the smartest person in the world, far from it, so there are many things I don't understand. But if there's one thing that confuses me above all else, it's when something is so good yet goes so unnoticed or gets very little success. And no, that's not just me complaining about my videos not getting enough attention. I'm talking about when a game gets more 10 out of 10s and 5 stars than any other yet sells poorly. That just bothers me so much. Games like Beautiful Joe, Titanfall 2, Okami, and so many more deserve so much better attention from gamers. Which is why I would like to talk about Panzer Dragoon Saga. What's that? My point exactly. You may think I'm talking about some weird old game, but the matter of fact is that Panzer Dragoon Saga is technically one of the greatest games ever made. Just look at the scores of this thing. You got a game with a unique battle system, some pretty decent graphics for the time, and even some parts that were open world. damn, what happened to it? Why is it so obscure now? Well, problem one, it came out on the Sega Saturn, a failing console, near the end of its lifespan. And problem number two, it came out after Final Fantasy VII. That is a powerful handicap that is not going to help you in the long run. But even in comparison, Panzer Dragoon Saga can give Final Fantasy a run for its money. I don't see 7 having full voice acting. Yet. Let me get back to the matter at hand. Why the hell haven't Sega done something about this? You have a great RPG on the top shelf of your closet and you aren't remaking it? Update the graphics and voice acting and put it on the Switch. Get yourself a new IP to put into the market and watch those sales skyrocket. I'm a patient person, I can wait. You know how Nintendo is doing that whole online thing? And how it's kind of okay, but still kind of sucks? If there was one thing that made me iffy, was all the NES games they allowed you to play. Only NES games. Look, I get the NES was important, but you need to add more. Like, for one thing, I think they should put GameCube games on the Switch. The console itself didn't sell well, but the majority of the games were amazing. But if we can't get them on the online thing or virtual console them, they should just start porting or remaking games from the GameCube era. And I think I know a good one to start with. Why the hell do people not talk more about Custom Robo? No exaggerating, I think this to be one of the greatest GameCube games ever made. The story is excellent, the gameplay awesome, the characters well made. So, question. Why the hell have there only been 5 games in total? Hell, the last one was made for the DS over a decade ago. I see no issue with rebooting a game that can do very well on the Switch. Just like Panzer Dragoon, all it really needs is a bit of a facelift and boom, you can have another fun IP to play with. I also have some hope on it cause Smash Bros. Ultimate brought back Raymark II from this series as an assist trophy. So clearly this game is still in some of Nintendo's great minds. Guess I'll just have to sit in here and wait until then. Many people like different aspects of games, but the big two that are the most important above all else are the gameplay and the story. And speaking personally, I tend to focus more on the story. For example, I love the gameplay of Wind Waker, but it never would have ended up as one of my favorite games if the story wasn't as good as it was. But not every game needs story, or at least needs to present its story up front. Games like Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch are proof that you can have good, engaging gameplay that shows your story through other methods, like comics or animated videos. I've put several hundred hours each into both of these games and do not regret a single minute of it. Though I will admit both of these titles have gotten a little stale for my tastes as of late, and I don't find as much enjoyment out of them anymore as I used to. Kind of one of the reasons why I say Borderlands 2 is the best FPS game ever. The gameplay is on par with TF2 and Overwatch, but it's the fantastic and entertaining story that puts it on top. I've said before that I see both Overwatch and Team Fortress 2 as equals, but whatever game can get a story mode first will probably get the edge it needs to truly pull ahead of the other. But the way things are, Overwatch is most likely to get a story mode first since Valve is making enough money with hats, but anything can happen, so who knows? I just want to enjoy more of my favorite first-person shooters. I don't think that's so wrong. I've mentioned remakes quite a few times now, and now I'm about to mention it again. And another thing you might have noticed is that I mentioned Nintendo in almost every entry here. Over half the list is made up of Nintendo game requests, including the number 1 segment. But when you think of the words remake and Nintendo, your mind should drift to one specific place. Game Freak. Why haven't we gotten our Gen 4 remakes yet? This is super personal for me because while Gen 5 is my personal favorite, Gen 4 was my first experience playing the games. And I feel certain in saying that many people would have liked the Gen 4 remakes instead of the Ultra games and the bullshit we had to deal with Ultra Necrozma, but I digress. With the rumors of Generation 8 being announced this year, this is the perfect opportunity to give us the remakes we want. It's also a great chance to give us a little more diversity in Pokemon forms, or just give us some new Mega Evolutions to mess around with. Arceus knows we're going to need them to take down Cynthia's Mega Garchomp. That is one fight I am excited and scared for. I said it before, I said it in this video, and I will say it 1,000 times more until I finally do it. I need to get a Switch! There are so many good games I'm missing out on. And I'd love to do some series on this channel that require the Switch. For almost 2 years now, I have managed to keep myself spoiler-free of Breath of the Wild in hopes of finally getting it and doing a blind playthrough here on StarFall. But on the subject of Zelda, what do they do next? We waited a long time on Breath of the Wild, and the creator said they do want to top it sometime in the future, and I have an idea on how they can do that. How about a Zelda game where you actually play as Zelda? I think if we can get a game with Zelda as a central focus, we will have finally reached the perfect balance. And for the record, if anyone mentions the Wand of Gamelon, you must die! I can't be the only one who's wanting this kind of game. Nintendo has proven that Zelda can be a good character. Spirit Tracks and Skyward Sword are a testament to that. But what we really need is a game with a central focus on her to truly flesh her out. Have it be where Ganondorf or whoever sends someone to capture Zelda, but Link pushes her out of the way and gets captured instead. And then they find out he has the Triforce of Courage again and is all, "Oh, what an incredible stroke of luck!" And it's now up to Zelda to save her friend and stop Ganondorf. Basil Silly 6 Shooter also had a pretty cool idea in his video, so go check that out if you want to, because I still think it's pretty cool. Zelda has always been the title of the games, but there has very rarely been a time where Zelda has been all that important. Even in such good games like Twilight Princess, she's there for like a total of 5 minutes. I know there's very little chance of this happening, but there are very few paths I think you can go on to keep Zelda unique and interesting. And it's Nintendo! If anyone can pull it off, they can. And with that, my ranting is over. Enjoy your year, Starbites, and I hope to see you next time.